So then I learned more about money. Money is based on artificial scarcity. And that means that abundant things are undervalued, scarce things are overvalued, and advertising consistently draws our attention away from abundant resources towards scarce, limited things. And this creates a feeling of lack, of FOMO, fear of missing out. And that's just how advertising works, basically. And so then, like, for example, water is all around us to drink, but for some reason they've got us going all the way to the store, taking hard earned money, buying soda. It's a plastic bottle. It doesn't even have water in it, it's mostly high fructose corn syrup. And we're doing all this, going out of our way, getting something that's a fleeting experience just so that we can want it again the next day, instead of just drinking free water that's just there. This is an example of, like, if you didn't have money, it's not some world bending experience to just start drinking water. You're just like, oh, well, there's nothing else to drink. It's obvious you just drink water after that. I also want to point out that this is just supply and demand. This is not, we haven't even gotten into stuff like the end of we haven't even gotten into like the end of the gold standard and how interest works and fractional reserve banking. We're just going to keep it basic. This is just how supply and demand works. If the supply is abundant, then you can't make any money off of it. So you're not going around collecting something that's that abundant to sell because it's not worth your effort. You're only going around getting gold if you can. People aren't scouring the hills looking for like miner's lettuce until there's an economic downturn and they actually need the miner's lettuce to survive. And then all of a sudden everyone's eating miner's lettuce again. They return to the abundance that's always been there, which again shows necessity is the mother of invention. So artificial scarcity makes it so that there will never be enough to go around. Even if there is, they will throttle the supply to increase demand to make the money. So for example, for every homeless person in America, there's something like 60 empty houses or empty living units. And there's the statistics of like how much food is thrown out, how many people are starving, and like if the food being thrown out was given to the starving people, they wouldn't even be starving. But that just shows the huge economic inequality in the world. So that's the issue, is that artificial scarcity is enforced by money, and therefore nothing will ever be completely solved in this paradigm. It will always be like there's poor people, there's starving people, that's the way the incentives push. Even if we eventually manage to feed everyone, there'll be like an extreme inequality in the access to resources, which would still be stupid. But right now it's a life-threatening inequality. Tons of people are still starving to death, like 3 million people a year. We're talking about whether we get free health care, but they don't even have food. I mean, I'm for free health care, I'm just saying. So artificial scarcity leads to both of these things being inevitable: extreme inequality and pollution. The simplest example to show why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer is the bulk buy. If you're rich, you can buy, let's say, 10 of something instead of 1 of something, right? And you don't have to pay 10 times more than the 1. You're only paying like maybe 3 times more than 1. So you pay the price of 3 for 10 things, while a poor person pays the price of 1 for 1 thing. So after a few days, the poor person has paid the price of 3 for 3 things, and the rich person has paid the price of 3 for 10 things. So in an amount of time, having both spent the same amount of money, the rich person actually got more for the same amount of money. So of course they're going to stay richer because they're constantly benefiting from that system. Here I wrote this like spectrum here. I show on one side the rich person's benefiting from the bulk buy. On the other side, the poor person's stuck in a cycle of payday loans. That's just the extreme example on the other side. So you can't quite make enough money. You try to take out a loan, but then you don't manage to pay it, and then you're just becoming in this cycle of debt. A lot of people even inherit debt from their parents. So this is even generational. You can just become stuck in this. So here on one side, you're accumulating debt, and then where's that debt go? On the other side, you have some people are so rich that they can live off of the interest from savings. They have so much savings that as long as they never spend more than the interest they make, they basically have like a basic income just coming in constantly. But where does that interest come from? It comes from those people stuck in cycles of debt. These are related. And this is just how the banking system works. It just like gets people more and more in debt, then packages the debt, sells it around, makes money. That money goes into interest. So the rich people are just making money off the dirt of the banking system, and the poor people are just getting screwed by it every day, all day. That's just what's always happening. And this is one of the reasons I feel bad if I even use money. It's like, this is what's being caused by that. So I don't want this to happen. And we could talk all day about if there's like policies and all these like, is there certain kind of taxes and, but whatever, we're not getting any of that stuff passed anyway. I'd rather just not participate in this system to begin with. All right, then we also have pollution getting worse because of artificial scarcity, because it makes it so nothing can never be abundant, so everything has to be disposable and breakable, and everything is just filling the landfills. They want you to buy more as quick as possible, so things usually end up in a landfill within like 2 weeks of being purchased or something. So we're literally just digging all these precious resources out of the earth, making stupid trinkets, and then throwing them back into a hole in the earth, like within 2 weeks, just constantly. So the problem is a lot of people say that buying green is going to be our way out. The green capitalism. We're just going to have to buy things that are more sustainable. But buying green costs more. So when you have people stuck in cycles of debt, you can't expect them to actually pay more for anything. They already have negative money. Basically, people can't make good economic decisions or spend their money wisely when they have no money to spend. It's just not possible. But that's why there's a direct relation between inequality and pollution. If we have such extreme inequality that people can't make good decisions, either environmentally or economically, then there's no way we can fix this problem within the paradigm of green capitalism, where we're just supposed to buy better products. We also have this problem of the green tax. Basically, if a product is sustainable, it becomes less affordable because environmentalism is trending finally, but that means you can charge more, like, because it's like a virtue tax. You want to be like, oh, I got a Prius so people can see I'm environmentally friendly, but then the Prius is like really expensive, you know? Just to clearly tie these together, noise pollution, I think, is a great way to look at both the interplay between income, inequality, and pollution. You see, if you're low income, then you can end up sleep deprived because you can't afford a place that is quiet. And this is proven that constant noise causes damage to the amygdala, which damages impulse control. And of course, like, homeless is like the worst version of this. You could just be sleeping on the street every day. Meanwhile, if you have a bunch of money, you could sleep well, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. All because you were wealthy to begin with. You got a better house, you got better sleep, and all this cascading benefits happens. So this just shows how there's these compounding effects. So when people try to blame each other for, like, basically you can't just blame people for not buying green and not address all this other stuff about economic inequality. You can't expect people to overcome their situation miraculously. I also want to point out this sinister dynamic where, while rich people are in a privileged position in this society to act holier than thou and buy all the green products, and I've got a Prius, I've got solar panels on my roof. Well, I don't own my roof, so I can't do that. I want to point out how they're shifting the blame there, because they want you to forget this, that the more money you have, the worse you are for the environment. The more money you spend, green products or not, the worse you are for the environment. If you buy products that reduce their carbon footprint by 10%, and then you buy 20 times more products than me, your carbon footprint's still way bigger than mine. And while we have all this shifting the blame going on, the reality is they're causing the pollution that the poorer people have to put up with. Noise pollution is just one example. If your economic activity is many, many times more than mine, then you are disproportionately causing the industrial pollution, the industrial noise pollution, carbon footprint, everything. 50% of our carbon footprint on the planet is just the top 10%. You are causing it, but with your privilege and your riches, you can afford to not deal with it directly. So then you buy your way out of it and cause it to happen to the people who couldn't buy their way out of it. And then by green capitalism, even blame them for doing it by saying, well, they should be driving a Prius. They're like, man, I bike to work. It's not about what car I drive. Yeah, I couldn't afford to buy my way out of this pollution, but I'm not the one causing the pollution. I bike to work, but I live in car smog. So the conclusion seems obvious to me. To solve climate change, we have to end capitalism.